You thought you had trouble?
We are beginning.
Thought the boss would.
All right. We'll call to order a business session of the school board. Fort Edwards. And our first item on the agenda is report from student representatives, student staff recognition. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Nevada and I'm a senior.
And I'm Kari, and I'm also a senior. Starting out with athletics, the middle school girls had their first basketball practice on Monday, and they will have their first game at home versus Wild Rose tomorrow night. The high school boys and girls basketball teams are about halfway through their season. The boys currently sit with a record 7-3 record and had a big conference win during Pittsville last night with a score of 48-45. They are currently tied for second place in the conference and have some big games coming up next week. The girls currently sitting at 2-6 under their first year coach, Mr. Jensen. They have a small team, but they're working hard each day to get better and improve their skill set. They have some important conference games coming up soon too. Wrestling has 3 Port students who take part of the co-op with Nakusa. Senior Michaela McGuffey recently placed 4th at the Bi-State Classic, where more than 30 teams competed. They have their first home conference duel tomorrow night at 7 p.m. in Nakusa.
Switching over to the musical side of things, next Saturday, January 18th, our band and choir groups will be attending the Central Wisconsin Conference All-Star Music Festival that will be hosted by Wittenberg Birmingwood. John Edwards High School has 6 band students participating, as well as 8 choir students that have been selected to be a part of the All-Star Choir. Good luck to Miss Pete and Miss Anderson and the band and choir students on their performances. Last month, Student Council held a coloring contest to raise money for the Southwood County Humane Society. With the sale of the coloring pages and the help of generous donations, we were able to raise $125. Special thanks to all those that helped with this cause. Lastly, the new year has begun and students have just returned from Christmas break last Thursday and are readjusting well. Student Council is looking forward to helping make the rest of this year a great one. Thanks for listening. We hope you all have a great night.
Very good. See why it's important to learn how to color in kindergarten?
Yes.
Because you never know, in high school you might be in coloring contest.
You can point
Did they-
to
I would love to. Did they post them anywhere?
I don't know if they did. They're still up, aren't they?
They should
Down
have
there,
done
they're gonna announce the winners, I think.
Okay.
There's a lot of very.
Maybe they'll get posted on the Facebook page. And then I'll see it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
Yes, of
Thank you.
course. Have a nice night.
I never stayed in line when I called.
Your dad and you can see your
It's okay, that just means you're already.
All right, next item is president's report. Board member attendance, everyone's here. Carrie is excused absence.
Yes.
And next board meeting is February 12th?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
February
what I
12th.
have.
All right. Moving on to administrative reports, district administrator report. Jim?
Good evening, everyone. An update about our capital projects from our capital referendum, which took place last April. As of January 1st, I'm happy to announce that we have 5 projects scheduled over spring break and this summer. Those projects are the middle and high school building-wide tuck pointing project, which will take place this summer. Removal of the elementary gym partition. We've got that large partition that is not used very often in the elementary cafeteria and gym here. That is being taken out, and we're installing a new floor in the elementary gym, as well as a new epoxy floor in the elementary kitchen. We are putting in a rubberized floor, heavy duty, a little more durable, a little safer for athletics. We'll also be installing a new ceiling in the high school Spanish room. That is going in the summer as well. New cafeteria tables here in the elementary cafeteria. Interesting to note, we have those pocket tables that roll up into the wall. There are only 2 companies in the United States that make pocket tables, both here in Wisconsin, fortunately. So
Lucky for us.
they're both in southeastern Wisconsin. We did bids on them, and we went with the most cost-effective and quality product. So those are going in the summer as well. And also installation of a new clock system building-wide and a new PA system building-wide. If you have been to hospitals, newer school buildings, where you'll see clocks kind of sticking out from the wall, digital clocks, and they may have a scrolling message on them. We are getting those installed here in the elementary this summer and looking at the high school for the summer of 2026.
So there's not gonna be a clock like that with numbers on it?
We are looking at some of those for the classrooms.
Perfect,
The
'cause
analog clocks,
Kids
so,
can't tell time
Yeah.
anymore because they don't ever have to see it.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that
anal-
bothers me.
When I
yes,
tell the driver's ed kids to hold the wheel at 9 and 3,
yeah.
I get the,
What?
they have the foggiest idea what I'm asking.
What about the
Ninth
rest of
month
the
and third month.
So that was a question that came up in our conversation. We finalized this over Christmas break, and we are doing some analog clocks in the classroom so that they can learn that skill. I do have a schedule of these projects. I'll pass out to board members. So if you'd like to take one. Sure.
Just require them to be able to use an analog clock before they can have their Game Boys.
Yeah,
Or their
that,
cell phone.
that and cursive writing, those are my
Yeah.
things, as long as I have anything to say about it, those are gonna, because people have already said to me, they don't teach cursive in Port Edwards, and I said, yes, they do.
Absolutely.
Do not start that rumor, because I know they do,
That's right. That's right.
and that's so important. Ah,
Yes.
Well, the older I get, the more stodgy I get.
A few other things to report on. The district's next professional development day for our teaching staff is Monday, February 10th. All faculty will be spending half of the workday on curriculum work on February 10th. And middle and high school teaching staff will be previewing the pre-ACT Secure and Forward exams on February 10th. This Friday, Frank Need, myself, and our lead contractor from CISA 10 are meeting to develop a request for proposals for new locks for the elementary building. Our exterior and interior locking mechanisms on the doors are very aged, well beyond their useful life, and just are not functioning properly. So we are going to bid that project out as well for new locks here at the elementary. And finally, our next curriculum leadership committee meeting will be held Thursday, January 16th, next Thursday. The leadership committee is finalizing details on its curriculum proposal, which we'll be presenting to the board at an upcoming spring meeting in March or April. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, middle school, high school principal report. Okay.
A couple things that I wanted to go over that Jim had put on his slip here are Beth Wilcom, our middle school math teacher, is going to be putting on our district 6-12 spelling bee, or our 6-8 spelling bee next Tuesday, so that'll be the 14th. I joked around because the last 2 years she's hosted that, we've had snow days, so we've had to use the makeup day, so I don't know if that leads anything, but yeah, so that'll be the 14th. The 14th is also a busy day. Our girls' high school basketball team has their girls' alumni night that night against Pittsville. And then on Thursday, January 16th, the boys have their alumni night coming up too. So 2 alumni nights. Mr. Awanski is very involved yet with that, with Mr. Ayers. And so, if you get a chance and you want to see a good basketball game, a lot of people show up, come to those. That it's a good time. A couple things that I wanted to focus on. And I talked to our staff at our staff meeting today about our culture at the middle school, high school right now. I had shared in closed session just about our behavior incidences and how much they've gone down. It is completely up to the staff and the culture they've built there and the trust that the kids have with our staff. This is that time of the year, January, February, where there's not a ton of stuff going on to talk about. But you're gonna hear from 2 ladies today, farther down the agenda, about, it's such a good example of what every one of our staff members are seeing right now. At our school, our middle school and high school, tremendous things are happening. We have great people in our classrooms that are leading, providing amazing opportunities for our kids. And so I want to keep this short because they are going to talk a little bit tonight, but our staff, I just want you to know right now the culture in our building is extremely high, and things are going very well. So.
Great,
Thanks, Shane.
thank you. Moving on to the elementary principal report.
Okay, some of the things taking place during December and January here at Ed Hoyer Elementary School. Our character trait for the month is perseverance. Of course, we have another fantastic bulletin board right here in the center of the building. Thank you to Mrs. Wilhorn of second grade who put up our Perseverance bulletin board. Perseverance is defined with examples and is discussed each day during our morning announcements, and a quote is given by someone famous from society about perseverance. Elementary students who exemplify perseverance this month will be nominated by their teachers and recognized school-wide at the end of the month. Mid-year academic standardized assessments are taking place through all the classrooms here at the elementary. Data that is collected from those assessments will be used to adjust our intervention groups and to differentiate our curriculum based on the needs that we are seeing from those assessments. The Opera for the Young will be taking place once again here at the elementary. That will be on January 31st at 1:30. This year's performance will be The Magic Flute. Elementary music teacher Mr. Erdman has been working with the Opera for the Young company, and he is collaborating with them to teach the music from the Magic Flute to our elementary students. And some of the students will be selected, those that perform the best, to actually be part of the Magic Flute program. So that's very exciting. Again, January 31st at 1:30. On the academic side of the building, beginning in February, CESA 5 will be assisting with a review of our ELA curriculum materials, the creation of a curriculum materials piloting schedule, and the adoption of pre-K through grade 5 anchor textbook materials that will meet our Act 20 guidelines. As you may or may not know, the state has put out a list of accepted Act 20 textbook series, and that is part of the Act 20 program that we need to buy new curriculum materials that fall in line with that. So CESA 5 is assisting with that curriculum adoption.
What's the program called?
We're going to be piloting several.
Oh,
We have-
okay.
we are
you
starting
haven't
that-
chosen one.
We're
Okay.
starting that in February.
Okay.
Yeah. Finally, I'd like to congratulate the winning classrooms from December for the Good Housekeeping Award, our cleanest classrooms. Mrs. Henny's kindergarten classroom and Mrs. Rasmussen's third grade classroom. These classes do an excellent job of keeping their classrooms and bathroom areas neat and clean. They received donuts on the day of their award as well as a traveling trophy. So congratulations to Mrs. Rasmussen's and Mrs. Henny's classrooms. Thank you.
And I would hope, like, napkins underneath.
Oh, very neatly. Not a crumb. Not a crumb. Not in those classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Special Education Director report. Jody.
Yep, look, here I am for my first ever special ed director update. I think this kind of came to me in the fall because the special ed department, they're a hardworking group of people. We have 4 certified staff, 8 paraprofessionals, and of course we contract with CESA for many services for our students. And I thought it would just be really good to update you on maybe some statistics and understand the increase in the special education needs over the past 10 years. And kind of have you understand, when we might need to ask for things. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so thank you for supporting me in my endeavor in the special ed department. Obviously, I became full-time. The need is definitely great. I'm in way more meetings than I ever thought I was going to be attending, but it's been great. I kind of want to start off with just giving you a basis that we have 2 teachers servicing the entire elementary school, 2 teachers serving the middle school, high school. Last year, we only had 3. It was kind of a rough year, so we did increase by 1. Last year, we ended the school year with 6 paraprofessionals, and due to the increase in student needs, we had to hire 2, so we are at 8 currently. Just kind of talking about staff retention in the special education department, we are always trying to find qualified human beings. They are taking care of some of our neediest students across the district. Challenging yet rewarding job. We currently service 64 students out of our school population in special education. That is a percentage of 14.6% of the Port Edward students have some form of special education need. That may just be speech and language only. It could be a severe developmental delay and speech and language, vision impairment, deaf or hard of hearing, other health impairment. We have them almost all here. We currently have 9 referrals on the table, 6 of which are speech and language only. That doesn't mean they'll qualify, but that's 9 additional students that we're currently working on. I wanted you to know that in case you haven't kept up on special education, this trend is a growing and popular trend across the nation. This is not a Port Edwards issue. This is something that has been, I did find a little piece of data that at some point 10 plus years ago, there were 25 students in special education here. So we have, not quite tripled in the past 10 years. The current number of open enrolled students that we serve here is 6. We get lots of wonderful compliments about our district. We have many, many parents whose students have needs. I received several phone calls this year already trying to open enroll their students in next year from outside of the district. So that is a kudos to our staff, just like Shane was speaking about, from our secretary to our paraprofessionals to our CISA sources to our certified staff. So they are amazing. They do a lot on a daily basis with some challenging situations. My last part of the report is kind of like what's been happening since I took over. In our department, communication is one of the most important aspects. So when you attend one IEP meeting, that could involve having anywhere from 4 to 8 people involved just in the process. And of course, if you're a teacher, former teacher, whatever, you know that. But it just seems like because Port is a little bit smaller, we are trying to get and connect with all these people outside of the district to try to bring them in and communicate with them. Some things that I've started, I'd like to update the board 3 times a year, not 6 or 12, just to see if you have any questions. I started monthly meetings with both certified staff, which is a group of 4, plus our secretary and some CISA employees, and then also monthly meetings for our paraprofessionals. I'm currently working on a paraprofessional handbook. What happens is we hire somebody new, let's say in November, and then all of a sudden they have to know how to log in, and all these things that personnel here are trying to just jump in while we're working with students. So I'm trying to get that going. I began meetings to streamline communication between the interventionists, which is that whole Act 20 piece, which is huge right now in the state of Wisconsin, and correlate and try to connect that to the special education referrals. A lot of communication has to take place there to make sure we're following the proper steps. Our special ed teachers, 4 of them, are attending a training next week on January 16th at CISA 5. I asked my staff if they had been to any professional development opportunities, and one of them said before COVID. So I think it's good for them to connect with other special education teachers so they can relate to each other. Once again, in conclusion, I just wanted to thank you so much for supporting me. Our special education staff, they're not a basketball coach. They are not the art, the art being displayed. But if you really dug in and spent some time with them, my heart is just so full for how hard they work. Okay? Any questions?
No, that's wonderful. Are you able to get substitutes, like on the 16th when those 4 teachers are gone?
Yeah, it's very tricky. And one thing that if you will learn anything about our district is the support and the fill-ins that the entire staff do for each other is just amazing. I don't know if you would see that in other districts. There's a situation where they just kind of set up and they fill in for each other. There's some spreadsheets set up. But this PD opportunity, I knew I was having 4 gone that day, but I felt strongly about it that, so all the kids will be covered. We're just not sure how yet.
Yeah. And I really think it's important that they go to the extra training.
Yes.
It's good for them personally, because a lot of times you find out that there are teachers that are worse off than you are.
Yes.
So it's good all around, and I'm glad that they're being able to go.
Yes. Yes. So thank you. Yes, Dana.
Years ago, I saw a study that showed that there's a burnout rate among teachers in general, but special education teachers, it is extremely high, 7 to 8 years. And
Probably
if you're
a little
in,
less now, 5 to
and if
6,
you're in
yes.
the ED area, it's like 3 years. is, do you have something in place to help reduce stress, eliminate or slow burnout?
I mean, not at this moment. I think it's just building a relationship, first of all, with the staff and having them want to stay here.
Yep.
Just like Shane talked about it, I met with the staff all summer. We had a coffee chats, we had a Christmas little party. I tried to open the communication, but we have 3, our psychologists and 2 teachers are new this year out of our 5 in this district. So we only have 2 veterans. And so basically, you have to be, I'm still training the new teachers too. So as far as your question goes, I'm just trying to make the ones here happy so they stay
Sure.
here.
And
When it
support.
comes to behaviors, I mean, Jim can attest to this, we've sat in a ton of meetings this year, just working on each behavioral need and determining what the students need. And of course, the teachers and myself and the building principals are involved. When it comes to retention, you try to keep them happy, but really when it comes down to it, their jobs require not only working with the students all day, but truly hours and hours of paperwork. So it's not just the working with the students, it's the paperwork as well.
And I would assume that feelings of support within the group is going to help.
Absolutely, yes. And I think we're getting there, it's definitely taking some time.
Has the IEP paper trail changed enormously?
Not really, if anything, there's just more forms,
Well,
Um, but otherwise, no, it's a similar process.
Is it possible to look at maybe getting some additional clerical support for some of your people?
Well, we did increase our secretary time from part-time to full-time.
Good.
And so that is something we could definitely look at, maybe in typing some of the things up, but our staff, they're great people. They like to take ownership of their own materials, which is great, but absolutely. And I think when they get so bogged down, I do offer them. I just offered to go in and take their kids for an hour. Do you know what I'm saying? To try to help
Yeah.
relieve them.
Give them
2 of them just took me up on it. So, I'm trying, definitely to make them feel like they're supported. I get in here and work with some of the kids if someone has to be gone or in a meeting, and I offer that, so.
That's wonderful, and that means a lot to the teachers if they know that you would come in and do that for an
Yes.
hour.
Yeah.
And I know, I'm not here that much, but when I am, I see the paraprofessionals that are working with these students, and I'm like, whoa,
Yeah,
they do a really good job too.
absolutely. Thank you. My next report will not be this long.
But we appreciate it.
Thank
you very
We
much.
want to
Thank
hear from you,
you.
so.
I want to take 1 minute real quickly, if I may. As Shane has been at every monthly meeting and we've seen his work at the high school, we've had the opportunity to give him some kudos for that. This is Jody's first meeting, or one of her first meetings. I want to give her kudos. When you hear Jody talking about supporting her teachers, her staff, my goodness, I see it every single day. And that, and I want to talk a little bit about what you said, Dana, relieving burnout. Building that team, building that culture, building that trust for one another, and I will say support is probably number 1 that Jody does, and she does a phenomenal job. The energy, the passion that you see here tonight, I see it every day, 7 till 4 or 5, and then she goes home and has to do it longer with more work, so she's doing a wonderful job in her position. Good job.
People who don't work in education don't get that. They think that all that people working with kids do is teach and monitor and mentor them. And the paper trail will kill you. And in the special ed world and in IEPs, I was the team liaison at AMS for years, and I didn't have to do the paperwork. All I had to do was show up with the reports from the rest of our group. And I'm sure after almost 20 years, that hasn't gotten less. It's gotten more. So, thank you. Those kids don't know how lucky they are.
Alright, next item on the agenda, annual audit report. Amber. Familiar face again?
Yes, good evening. So I'm gonna go through a couple pages like I normally do and open it up for questions as you go through. So overall, just like last year, we had the clean audit opinion. We did, from the results of our testing, we didn't find anything that would be materially misstated or incorrect that would result in us having to modify this opinion. If we would have been having more meetings a whole lot sooner, kind of thing. And again, as a refresher, one of the things we do our audit as a risk-based audit. We come in, we read the board minutes, we talk to Lisa, we talk to Jim, and we kind of get a feeling for what goes on during the year. And from there determine, DPI also tells us a little bit of what we have to look at, kind of thing. But from there we design our tests. And so some years we may test 25 payroll or 50 payroll, or maybe 10 payroll. It depends on what's going on during the year and where the grants fall. And so this year, I will say we did have to do a little extra testing because the district spent over $750,000 in federal funding, and that triggered the single audit. So we did do extra testing from that perspective, and that runs the gamut of payroll disbursements to non-accounting kind of stuff. And so I'll go into that a little bit more in depth towards the end because there's some recommendations we have for the district to consider from that perspective, for the grant perspective. But that's kind of just the way we dive down into it. And there's certain things we're going to look at every year, and then there's certain things we're going to look at only depending on what's going on. And so obviously one of the things we looked at this year that was a little different, if you turn to page 8, this is your balance sheet. And I guess I would say the middle column there where it says other capital projects, that's a new fund for the district. That is where the referendum costs are going to end up showing up. But for 23-24, you didn't have any referendum costs, so you just have the cash from the debt that you took out. So when you see that $7.3 million, that's that total referendum debt that was taken out in, if I remember it was June. And so that's a brand new column that you wouldn't see. And then so now next year when we come in, or now as the projects that Jim mentioned we're getting started, there will be expenses and that money, that total amount will start going down as you spend the projects. And you'll see that we have it shown on the restricted line. And that is basically because a lot of times when you take out debt, it's for specific projects. The referendum was for specific projects. So that's why it'll be on that line, and knowing that it can't be used for anything else. And then DPI has, once the project's done, there's different rules that if there is some money left over, then it goes to help pay debt, kind of stuff. So all that stuff will be shown in that fund. Your other funds pretty much stay the same. Just moving more to the left there, you have your long-term capital improvement fund. That's your Fund 46. That's the amounts that you're putting aside towards 10-year capital improvement plan projects. And so there was an additional transfer there this year of the $50,000. So you have $403,000 set aside for that long-term capital replacement plan and whatever else that might pop up. And obviously that plan can get revised as you move along because obviously you might have to move something up, you might have to move something back, you might have to add something to it. But DPI has the rules about that, so they just want to make sure that you're only spending that $400,000 on stuff that's in that adopted plan. And then your general fund, so your main fund, stepping back to the fund you guys look at more often than not out of everything else. So at the end of the year, you had $2.6 million in total assets in that fund. $1.7 million was in cash and investments. You had liabilities of $127,000. The majority of that is going to be some of your summer payroll and payroll withholdings that get paid out over the summer but were for the prior school year. And then you had that $50,000 due to other funds. That's that transfer to Fund 46 that DPI allows you to transfer it in July but book it back to June, kind of thing. So that's the majority of your liabilities there. The net difference is your fund balance. So in total, your fund balance is $2,475,000. And there's two categories here. So you're restricted. This is, again, like when third parties or somebody else tells you how you can spend that money. So this year, the $26,000, that was from DPI. They had given you some Get Kids Ahead mental health grants, funds that were unspent, and common school library funds that you didn't spend it all in this year, so now you can carry it forward and use it now in the future years. And then the remaining balance is your unassigned balance. So that's your cash flow reserve, what you can use for unanticipated expenditures if something came up, or just to allow that whole, again, cash flow. So maybe you don't have to short-term borrow, because the district hasn't had take out a line of credit or do anything for a few years. And having this balance at $2.4 million is what allows you to do that. The district has set a policy itself that you want 10% of expenditures, of current year expenditures, to be that minimum amount. This 2.4 is at 30%, so that's what gives you your flexibility in not having to short-term borrow, because if you short-term borrow, you're gonna incur debt interest costs and other costs, and so that all plays into it. So having that extra cushion on there allows the district some flexibility. From an industry perspective, we always just kind of always like to see it somewhere between 15 and 25%. So even from our industry benchmarks, the district is meeting what we would hope to see. Any questions on the balance sheet here? If not, then briefly, I just want to move to page 10. So this is your income statement, your revenues and expenditures for the year. And so starting with the general fund on the left side, total revenues $8.2 million. Half of that comes from the state. And then of the $4.3 million, and then you had $2.1 million for taxes, and then there's just a few other things. Your open enrollment revenue from the state is in that $1,068,000. That's where that line comes in. Pretty consistent with, every year. Your federal sources line is a little higher because that was basically the spend down of the majority of that ESSER funds that was left. So that line will obviously go down now in future years. For total expenditures, you had just about $8 million, mainly obviously in instruction and support services. There were some new leases, $71,000, those were new copiers. So that gets shown there because you're gonna pay those copiers off over 3 or 5 years, I don't remember exactly what it was. That's why it gets shown as a kind of a debt on this page. Overall, your fund balance grew by $263,000 in the general fund. And then kind of just moving the next columns over, your long-term capital improvement, you'll see that's where that $50,000 got added way at the bottom in that fund to get to that $403,000. And then that other capital projects funds, this is where you'll see long-term debt issued of $7.3 million for the referendum projects coming through. Any questions on that? Okay, then we're gonna skip all the way back to page 68. So this page summarizes overall audit results, starting with the basic financial statements. As I mentioned before, the result of the audit opinion, the auditor's report that was issued was unmodified, which is what the district strives for. We did have some internal control findings that we reported, material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. I'll go through those as we get to the next page, but those are the same ones we've talked about from the prior years, segregation of duties, report prep, and those kind of things. Then the next section that'll be a little bit new is this federal awards. Again, because the district spent over $750,000 in federal funds, we had to do the special testing. We did have a couple findings in material weakness and significant deficiencies. Again, a lot of it tied to the segregation of duties kind of thing, but more specific to grants. And I'll go into each one in more depth, but nothing that resulted in anything that we thought was non-compliant. So that's why number 2 there says unmodified. Again, which is what the district strives for. We tested the child nutrition cluster and the ESSER funds. Because when you need a single audit, which is what this is called, and you don't have one every single year, you become high risk from the federal perspective. So we have to test 40% of your total federal expenditures. So that's why we have to test 2 programs to get to that dollar threshold to have covered enough. And so obviously ESSER was the biggest one, and then child nutrition cluster is your next biggest program. Moving then to page 69, DPI requires us to test some of their state programs, and also in Wisconsin, when you have a federal single audit, you're required to have a state single audit. So then sometimes we have to test even a little bit more beyond that. The results of that testing, we didn't have any findings on those programs. And so again, that was unmodified. We focused more on equalization aid and per pupil aid, following DPI's guidance on those. So then page 70, and basically the majority of the rest of the document, details out the findings. So I'm just gonna briefly go through them, kind of just paging through just so you can see the different names. The first one was segregation of duties, like I discussed. In previous years, you know, and it's gonna be the repeat one. For a smaller district, sometimes it's hard to break apart a transaction from start to finish and not have enough people to check every step. It's not unusual, it's something just to be aware of, so then if software changes and you can implement a few more electronic approval reviews, you know, from different people, or if personnel change, you can think outside the box and see if you can implement another level of review. And sometimes it's not even that there's a concern about fraud, but it's just clerical errors. We've all put an extra 0, we've all typed a 6 instead of a 9, it all happens, and so having those extra layers of review help. And also having the board review check registers and different things and ask questions also becomes an important part of mitigating the fact that you don't have enough people to properly segregate how every single transaction gets recorded. The second finding on page 71 is preparation of the annual financial report. So out of this 90-page document, the auditor's responsibility is only about 10 pages worth. If the rest of it is management's responsibility to prepare. But for cost-benefit purposes, the district hires their auditors to compile that data. Out of all my clients, I prepare them all. You know, so it's not uncommon, whether you're a small district or even some of the bigger entities. But again, that's where review of everybody here, looking at the report and asking questions becomes an important part of it. Lisa and Jim get a draft of this before we finalize and print it so they can make sure nothing stands out weird to them as well. That's how we can keep our independence and still be your auditors and prepare the financial statements. And again, so if you're looking through this stuff and you have questions, you know, Lisa knows how to get in touch with me and I can send an answer kind of thing. Page 72 starts our federal single audit findings. And I'm gonna break them into 2 categories. We had 3 findings for ESSER and then 1 finding for child nutrition cluster. And for the most part, it's segregation of duties. You know, even when it's grant related stuff, you always want to have, if somebody's doing the purchasing, have somebody else review it and say, yeah, that's reasonable, that's allowable under the grant, and document that. And that's where some of the stuff is just missing. So our recommendation is, you know, look through it, see if there's ways, because there's certain things that automatically, under your procedures, have 2 reviews. But if a purchase order is not required, you don't always have another sign off. So maybe it's just considering whether or not, maybe it's not always a PO, but maybe there's a way to use the Skyward approval function for every transaction to get it approved for the disbursements. You know, just something to think about to kind of put in additional layers of review. Or there's an annual report for ESSER that gets filed. And it's not filed the same way you file your claims. You know, it's a different portal link for DPI and you have to submit it. Well, sometimes with these portal documents, there's not always a nice way to print a draft copy and have somebody else review it. And so maybe it's coming up with sharing screenshots and having somebody else review that. Again, a lot of times it's just more looking at it for reasonableness and looking forward to make sure there's not an extra 0 that got added somewhere or something that should have been marked no when it got marked yes or something. Just that cursory review to make sure there's no errors and just documenting it. You know, that's the biggest thing is sometimes I think whether it's this district or any other district, they might have that review, they may have asked questions and shared something, but that review doesn't get documented, so there's no proof it happened. So those are the kind of things to think about, whether it's ESSER, whether it's special ed flow through, whether it's Title I, whether it's Carl Perkins, whatever kind of federal or state grant you get, are there multiple sets of eyes looking at what's going on and what's being reported to those expenses? And that's the bulk of where all these findings came from. We had to split it out a little bit more in depth to be a little bit more specific about what happened, but nothing again that resulted in anything where you misclaimed something significant or just misdoing it that we'd have to show a non-compliance finding, but just something to be aware of and think about, like, is there somebody else that can help review or do a nice quick error check for numbers kind of thing. And that's what those last few findings are. They're obviously very detailed because we have certain requirements we have to list out because the federal government wants all that background information. But, you know, again, to me, it's just more being aware of those kinds of things and when possible, putting in another review and documenting it. And then just understanding what's going on because sometimes things are a little different. One of the things was a few years ago with the ESSER funds, you guys used some of the money towards some equipment with the chem lab project. Well, the federal government says that if you use federal money to buy that kind of equipment, every 2 years you have to do a physical inventory and prove it still exists, kind of thing. And this was the first time, at least in the time I've audited the district, where you bought equipment with federal funds. So there was, the first time doing it, you didn't always realize, hey, we gotta do this now every 2 years.
We did not.
Well, now we've talked with Frank and he's gonna implement something and go through it. And so then it's just something about now to be more aware of, like, if all of a sudden you buy some equipment with Title I, now you gotta track it. Or if you buy some equipment with flow-through money, you gotta track it and then do that physical inventory every 2 years. So it's keeping up with that and, keeping up with the trainings on everything. Cause like there was some uniform guidance federal rules that will be new updates that go into effect for basically 25, 26. So every once in a while the federal government does update things. So then sometimes it makes it easier, sometimes it makes it a little bit more work. But keeping up on those trainings and making sure everybody that's involved in grants to understand what the responsibilities are keeps everything moving smoothly. And then, because DPI will come in every once in a while too and look at stuff, so then you can say, here we go, this is what we're doing. Any questions on those? Do you guys have any other questions for me?
I just want to thank Amber. She's great to work with. Been working with her basically since I've started in here, and she's had to do a lot of training with me since I took over. But she's been, I mean, it's been great. She's, we have worked together for a long time. So,
And government accounting always keeps changing, so we're always learning from
Yeah.
each other and finding out.
Yeah.
If you find things from, as was mentioned before, if you go to some of the conferences, you can share ideas and you can bring things back and say, hey, what about this? And then learn it from there and go from there. So, I appreciate we talk pretty much a lot of times throughout the year. And I always think that's a very good thing too,
right.
because then it's like bouncing ideas off of anybody is always a big thing. And sometimes it's something small as payroll liability or, something IRS related. We can find people that come in and help you guys. And just having that back and forth relationship to understand, hey, what's going on? And then, to me, it makes the audit go smoother, which then makes it easier for these guys. Because it's tight, compressed time when we come in,
Yes.
DPI's requirements for having to file some of the stuff. I mean, not everybody gets their audit done within a month after year end. It's a compressed time. And so, we appreciate what the district does for getting stuff on the portal, working with us, doing some stuff remote as well to kind of, allow us to make sure we're getting the right people on the audit and working through that way.
People who work in school finance have my utmost admiration. The very first thing I did was attend the school finance pre-convention seminar that's offered every year.
Yep.
I've been on the board a month. And I'm sitting around a table with 8 other newbies and a school business person and a binder approximately the size of the Gutenberg Bible. And this eager young woman spent 4 hours paging through this opus. And I'm looking around the table and everybody is like this. And at the end of the session, she answers in a gleeful tone, well, are we all better informed? And we're looking at each other like, and all I could sum it up was, ma'am, I very much appreciate your efforts, but if a constituent came to me and asked a question about school finance, the best way that I could possibly serve that person's needs would be to make an appointment with our superintendent and business director and then find an excuse to be sick on that day. God bless you.
Yes. Finance, there's little niches, and that's where, I spend my entire career, I've actually only worked on school district audits and then local government audits, because it is such a niche. But I've enjoyed it. I'm approaching my 20th anniversary of doing all this stuff, and it's been fun. It keeps me going, and sometimes you shake your head and you're like, what? Why?
Why are they having us do this now?
What's the end game? But once it's a different story, and it's the educating everybody about it because you don't always know.
If you're not drinking heavily in the garage at night, you're doing wonderful. Thank you.
You know, when I first started, that's how I felt too. I was laying outside for a while and I had a lot of tears in the very beginning, so, but it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
I've
But
sat here for 15 years off and on. The longer I'm here, the less I understand.
at times it goes that way, isn't it? You know, it moves along and then something changes and it's like, you have to have that trust that there's a reason behind it, that they're just not explaining in a way that it's making it
I
to
don't
yourself.
have that trust.
It's the legislature.
It's
Trust?
through and just
Nah,
making
really?
sure you're trying to get through. That way you can serve the
You
students
use
and
the
everything
term
else you need.
government or, how about government accountability? Like have the government be accountable for why they're doing
They're
it.
getting their audits, you know.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily do that level, but they're getting their audits. But again, if anything pops up, Lisa and Jim have my contact information if you have questions. Otherwise, we'll be in touch because obviously the DPI will put out their membership list in just about 3 weeks. So obviously, if the district gets picked for that, we'll work on that. Otherwise, we'll be in touch for the summer.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Amber.
Amber.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much,
Thanks.
Amber.
Thank you for coming.
You
Yes,
too.
thank you.
Here we go.
It's
All right, questions and comments from people in attendance. Is there anyone that would like to speak at this moment? Okay,
Don't ask questions about
Yeah.
finances.
I wouldn't even know how to ask a question, a single thing she just said.
I mean, it might as well be Hebrew.
Absolutely.
It's just- I look at this, I'm kind of like, oh, good.
all right, we'll move on to consent agenda. Take a motion to approve the minutes of the past meeting of December 11th.
So move.
Second,
A motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next, consider approval of financial reports with gifts.
First, I just want to make sure you noted that there was a budget revision done in December, and that was to update for the budget report. There were 2 accounts in the Fund 21 that we needed to clean up, so to speak, and so I just did a transfer out of the Fund 10 to make those compliant, so we could get that budget report submitted. So that just took care of that. And then we had the United Methodist Church, they also bought Christmas cheer gifts, but they also gave a monetary donation back of $287. The Port Lions Christmas cheer, I think last month we talked about the holiday donation.
For the meal.
For the meal.
Yes.
This is their annual $2,500 that they give to Christmas cheer. They did that again. And then we had 2 donations through Encourage, the Marshall and Pat Beeler Advice Fund for $150 for the Caring Closet. And then the Engel Fellowship Lodge number 91 also donated to the Caring Closet for $250. And the Knights of Columbus Coats for Kids, $200. And I think I need one more sign thing. I didn't come back one more card. So, okay. So anyway, so those 5 today.
Just a quick
That's wonderful.
question. I don't know if you can answer it off the top of your head or not. As we get to the middle of the year, where are we at with our kids who are maybe in arrears in terms of school lunch funding?
Well,
Is it a big deal? Is it a small number?
I don't think it's a big deal. I think we have a pretty good, I mean, I think we're doing pretty good with that.
Yes,
Bottom line.
yes.
Okay, it isn't a copious amount of money or
No.
kids.
And we do get a lot of people that want to donate for our, those situations. And, and we do have a healthy families helping families accounts, to help with that. However, with the free and reduced programs, and Jenny runs a tight ship down there, and but no, we are fortunate right now that we do not have any significant issues.
Please keep us advised of that, especially this time and moving forward into the second half of the year. If there's certain families, there's certain kids that are starting to run off the rails,
And we usually do take a look at that, Ernestine will run a report at the end of the year.
let us know.
and we take a look at where we're at, and then we kind of judge, should we?
Right.
Should we
Pursue it, should we
pursue
not?
it, or is this we take individually, take a look at
It's
situations.
gotta be individual.
Because
Family by
there's
family.
sometimes that we don't.
Beauty of a small
Yes.
district is you know a lot more personally about the client
Correct.
than you
Right.
might in a bigger district.
Correct.
Right, that's
So-
the beauty of being a
Yes.
small school.
Yes,
If somebody
No,
really
who
needs the
truly
help,
needs
they can get it.
Correct.
If
Yes.
somebody's a deadbeat, then they need
And
to be
we
pursued.
really do have, right now, we have our healthy
But,
clerk
okay,
out there to
thank you.
help with that. Perfect.
Good to hear.
All
Thank you.
right, with
Move approval.
second,
a motion and a second to approve financial reports, any other discussion? Okay, roll call, Leo,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Kathy,
aye.
aye. So financial reports are approved. Unfinished business, second reading of the policies as previously presented.
They were presented in the latest Edgar Neola policy updates were presented in December. This would be our second reading. Motion to accept them as presented is requested to place them into policy.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to new business. Consider approval of open enrollment spaces for special education and regular education programs for the 25-26 school year.
Each January, the board is presented with our caps per grade level for regular education as well as our seating caps for special education. Those documents were shared with the board to date, and they've been reviewed thoroughly by myself, our leadership team, Mrs. Waltenberg, and motion is requested to approve them as presented.
Moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
I mean, we thank you, Jody, for letting us know that people would like to come here,
They would love to.
and we can't take them all.
It's a great place to be. I know, it's hard.
To the district.
Yes, move to the district, and
Yeah.
that's,
That
our
is
house is
what
available.
All right, all those in favor, motion say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion is approved. Next on the agenda, consider approval of December 2025 band trip.
Welcome, Ms. Anderson. Ms. Anderson
Oh.
is bringing forward a
Move this.
exceptional opportunity tonight. She's going to share that information. And following her presentation, motion to approve the band trip in accordance with board policy 2340 is being requested. Thank you.
Sorry. Hello. For those that may not know me, I think most of you know me at this point, but my name is Emily Anderson. I'm the band teacher here at Red Redwoods. I realized, oh yeah, I do have a little presentation.
Yeah, we do have a
If you want to
slideshow
watch
for those of you
it,
who
otherwise
aren't.
I'll hopefully do a good job explaining everything that I post on it as well. I realized in my almost 3 years here, I've never presented at a board meeting, so I thought I would take this opportunity as well to give you kind of an update of what's going on in our band program. So I call it Band by the Numbers. So for participation, when I came here, I have it listed 22 to 23. Sixth grade, I had 13 students. Combined 7th and 8th grade band, I had 16, and in high school we had 11. This year, I'm proud to announce that we have 14 in 6th grade, which is exactly half of the class. We have 28 in 7th and 8th grade, and in high school we have doubled to 22, which is awesome to see. And in 25, 26, I'm hoping 6th grade, I'm coming here to the elementary school to present the band instruments to the 5th graders in the end of January, so we'll figure out how many we have interested then. But then 7th and 8th grade, we're hoping to hit the 30 mark, and in high school as well, we're gonna be high 20s. So I'm really excited for that. It's really been awesome to see the program growing a lot. Updated instrument inventory. When I got here, our inventory has been aging. There was a lot of things that needed to be updated or replaced or retired. So I have replaced or added over 35 instruments. Some of the biggest ones being a new xylophone, which was donated by the Jasperson Foundation. You see that was this one up here. I have a used xylophone that's here at the elementary school. It's really nice to have an actual xylophone at the school because when young percussionists are playing on those little bell kits, it's not really appealing, so they tend to lose interest pretty fast. So if they have something a little nicer to play on, they tend to stay a little bit more interested. So that was donated by purchased, I should say, by Music Boosters. We have our first, to my knowledge, vibraphone here at Port Edwards. That's this one up here. If you don't know, a vibraphone is kind of a metal instrument that has this really cool ringing effect. If you came to our last band concert, it was featured in our piece Blue and Green Music, as well as I have a senior that's going to be doing a vibraphone solo at Solo and Ensemble, and it just adds a cool texture to our band that we didn't have before. Pete had purchased a new drum line. We got 2 new snares, 2 new bass drums, and a new set of quad toms. There's a couple of them pictured right there. Our drum line, I would say, is probably from the 90s, so we were due for a new upgrade, as well as we have a new sousaphone. That's this one down here, Horacio, phenomenal tuba player. Our old sousaphone, which I still have, it's all brass, so it's very heavy, and it does not come apart, so we could not transfer it whenever we would want to go and perform, and it didn't go in a case, so it had a chance of being damaged. So now this new one can be collapsed down, put into a case, and we can transfer it a lot easier to the wheels. And then we also got a full-size tuba from the Jasperson. These were both purchased from the Jasperson Family Foundation. That full-size tuba, we only had 3/4 size ones before that, which is typically for a middle schooler. So now we have a very nice high school size one for him to play on. Horacio is a phenomenal tuba player and has taken a great deal of care in both these instruments.
What year is he?
A senior. I know. I'm really sad about it.
Keep him another year.
Yeah, can we keep him another
If he
year?
goes to Madison, in the days of Michael Crone, the tubas always gave Mike trouble every spring band concert. So maybe he will not follow in their stead and be an annoyance to you.
Yeah, no, he's a phenomenal student, great player, yeah. Changes our sound. Just a little update on the number of students renting. I'm not gonna read all of it, but we have approximately 50 school instruments that are rented. While I don't have 50 students that are renting, I have a couple students that double, like I have a saxophone player that plays alto, which is the smaller one, and a bari saxophone, or I have clarinet players that play clarinet for class or saxophone for jazz band. That's where a couple of the bigger numbers come from, but again, 50 school instruments that are being rented out to students and currently in use.
Any of the kids have their own?
I do have students that have their own, yes. There's not too many that rent from like a music store.
Right.
So I have a lot of students that purchase their own, and I've done a pretty decent job of when I find, nice ones on Facebook Marketplace too, of sending them out. So yeah, I have a mixture of students that do both. But I would say more students rent from school than own. This is some field trips that we do. These are ones that we do every year, Solo and Ensemble. I'm sure you've heard of this, where we go and perform. Students get graded on how they do. Middle schoolers and high schoolers participate. You heard earlier from our student representatives that we are going to All-Star in a couple weeks. I have 6 high schoolers participating. I also have an 8th grade honors band that we are going to in Wausau. That's going to be in February. I have 5 8th graders participating. And then we always do some kind of trip to UW-Stevens Point. They're so close, and I have great connections there. This year, we went to Low Brass Day I think it was in September. And then we went to Tuba Christmas a couple weeks ago, where if you can picture in your head, picture 150 tuba euphonium players on stage just blast into Christmas music. It's a fun time. Students, I had trumpet players learn to play the euphonium for just that day, and it was a great time. So if you ever want to come watch, it's a free event. And
Group of very angry elephants.
yeah, they're flubbing away down there. These are some field trips that we have done that aren't necessarily yearly. My first year here, we performed at a herd basketball game over in Oshkosh. We combined with Tri-County to do that. Last year, we upgraded with Tri-County, and we went to a Bucks game, and we played some pep band music there. We also went to Six Flags Music in the Parks Festival. The students did phenomenal. I want to say there was 8 high schools there. We placed second, which was really great considering it was our first time doing it. I took only 16 kids, and we were competing against schools that had populations in the thousands. So it was really great to see that. And then my middle school took a small trip up to Wausau to work with Sarah Pishka, the band director there. And of course, we ended it with a fun day at the trampoline park. This year already, we went to UW-Madison to work with the marching band director, Corey Pompey, and we watched a phenomenal wind ensemble concert there. We will, in February, perform at an Admirals hockey game in Milwaukee. We're doing the Six Flags trip again as well, and my middle schoolers will have some kind of fun little field trip as well.
Kids gonna go to the spring band concert.
The
Madison?
varsity one, I thought about it. I kind of wanted to take them, but I figured we were just there at Madison. But I was thinking about it. My boyfriend is actually is the tuba coach for the marching band.
When did I stick my foot in that one?
So yeah, he was like, "You should bring your kids down," and I was like, "Oh, that's becoming a lot of trips." But so 2025-26, if you looked at your paper, we are hoping to go to Hawaii. The band director over at Lincoln, Gene Olson, reached out and asked if we would be interested in joining them to go perform at Pearl Harbor, with of course our main events being memorial performances. If you look down the list, this is the exact itinerary that we're gonna take. We're gonna do 6 days, 5 nights. Ideally, right now, we're looking to leave Thursday, December 4th, returning December 9th, so the students would miss a couple days of school. But
Just fine.
but some highlights being, of course, we'll spend time out in Waikiki Beach. We'll do an island tour of Oahu. We'll experience Pearl Harbor Memorial. We'll perform in an opening ceremony with all the other bands that come. We'll perform the same music as well as the parade. We can do our own American musical salute tribute performance, and then of course explore Polynesian culture while we're down there. Of course, the big question was the expected cost. Right now, we are looking at about $2,800. The majority of that being hotels and all the activities that we will do on the island. We would do at $140 for the food that's not listed, so then the students would be given that to spend while they're there on food. $900 for the flights and approximately $30 for airport transportation while we are in Wisconsin. And of course, so the Jasperson Family Foundation has been very kind to our music department, and they had offered to give us a significant amount to reduce this for our students. I am still in the process of figuring out how much that will be, but we're looking to project to lower it by each student between $500 and $1,000 for each student. So it would be a phenomenal experience at the unbeatable price.
No kid who wants to do this should be denied the opportunity because of cost.
Yes, and we will of course do lots of fundraising opportunities, and Jean Olson, I was chatting with her today already, and she knows of other community outlets, you could say, I guess, that would help pay for this if students have financial concerns.
This is, I did this exact trip in a 3 or 4 day format. In 2014, we spent a month in New Zealand, but our youngest daughter was living there. And since we were already halfway around the world, we flew from Auckland to Honolulu, spent 3 days doing most of this. The village, Pearl Harbor, and a couple of these other things. Then we did the Pride of America cruise around the islands for a week. That's we checked off Hawaii as our,
Yeah, and I actually,
this is spectacular.
yeah, I'm very excited because I went to Hawaii, I went to Waikiki in 2021. So I actually have done a lot of these things already, so I'm excited to get the chance to go back and show it to the students.
Pearl Harbor, the Arizona Memorial, and the Missouri birth side by side. It makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
That's,
You watch the oil bubbling out of the bunker tanks on the ship. It's been down there for 84 years. These kids will never forget it.
I make a motion to approve the trip.
Amen.
Wonderful, Emily, and what you have done for the band programs since you've been here in 3 short years is phenomenal.
I always say it's easy when you love your job. I love what I do, and I love coming to school, and I love working with these students.
And we love you and we hope you'll stay forever.
Well,
These kids know how lucky they are.
thank you.
That was a motion, that was a
Yes,
second.
That was the second.
Yes, amen.
Any other discussion?
I just find it interesting, I'm glad that they were able to do it, which is to put the Missouri there because it's the beginning and the end.
Yep.
Because that's where the surrender is, Tokyo Harbor. So I got to see the USS Iowa in Los Angeles Harbor when I finished a cruise. We moored next to it. Boy, same class.
That's a sister ship,
The Iowa, the Missouri, the New Jersey, and
Wisconsin.
the Wisconsin. Wisconsin's in North Carolina.
No, Wisconsin's in Virginia.
Is it in Virginia? Okay. I know my son-in-law was there.
Newport News.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Good, motion carried. Good job.
I'm excited. This
Congratulations.
is the hardest secret to keep. I'm not a good secret keeper when it comes to like gifts or fun things. So like every time I make my morning announcements to the kids, I'm like, what else do I have to tell them? And I'm like, nothing I guess.
And if you happen to notice, I put on the agenda,
Oh, I appreciate
I
it.
only put, what I,
Band trip.
2025 band trip, and the next one is Spanish trip to
Costa
Costa Rica. My band trip.
Yeah. So I'm telling them tomorrow, so I'm very, very excited.
I was
Emily.
glad I was informed that it was a secret.
Yes.
Lisa and I were just having a little side conversation. We were wondering how you're gonna select chaperones.
You know, I had so many emails already. I might have to like pick out of my
Who
hat.
brings you the largest coffee every morning? Or?
I mean, we could go that route. I
Donuts.
wouldn't mind. You know?
Yeah,
Starbucks, Dunkin', I take them all.
right. Thank you.
What an opportunity.
Now, you get to follow that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Pretty exciting though too.
Yes.
I didn't bring any pretty pictures.
Yours is international, Rachel.
Just as a
Yes.
basic note.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, next up,
Great
approval
job.
of spring 2026 Spanish class trip to
Another
Costa
great
Rica.
Yes.
How many times have you gone now?
Personally?
Well,
Or
since, with
here?
kids, since you've been
I've done 2 trips.
2 trips
already.
before,
Or-
okay, that's what I thought, okay.
Gosh.
Gracias.
Yes.
I'm not there.
Donata.
Lisa, you've been on this trip.
I know, twice.
Okay, so again, this is a recurring trip, basically, to the great benefit of our students. And it's being done every 3 years, which is what it has been, right? Yeah, traditionally. So not this spring, but the following year's spring of 2026 is the next time up. It's the same itinerary as past years, which I did copy on the back. So if you're interested in the detailed itinerary, part of me wants to change it up or think about maybe let's do a different country this time. But I can't find better than this itinerary for something with so much active participation for the students. I've chaperoned trips, and as a student, I've been on trips where, you go to the next museum and the next cathedral, and you drive past, the beautiful things and the historic monuments. But after a while, the kids aren't listening to that anymore, so it needs to be
Interactive.
yeah, right, which, I love seeing about your itinerary and the things they're gonna actually do and play here and go there and, I can just see them talking about the fire eating thing, whatever, and they'll be excited. So anyway, so this itinerary, same as past years, they go to a pineapple plantation, they get to see how it grows. They harvest them, they cut them up right there for the ones they just harvest, cut it up, the kids get to eat it. It's so delicious, we usually keep asking for more until all our mouths are burning and you can't eat any more pineapple. Interestingly, I've learned if that ever happens to you, put some salt on your tongue, it will neutralize the acids and you can eat more pineapple. We also go to a coffee plantation, I didn't list it there, but we go in the rainforest they get to see how chocolate pods grow on the tree. And then they get to see a presentation about how it historically came to be and spread and cut open and how they get dried, and the kids get to suck on the cocoa seeds. Anyways, so it's cool. Coffee too, zip lining. I already added that into our itinerary, told them go ahead and add that to our cost because we're for sure gonna do that. They get a dance class, we do a cooking class, We go next to one of the bigger volcanoes, and they get to go swimming in a kind of like a water park, but it's mostly various sort of swimming pool sized hot tubs of varying temperatures with a few slides that of course the kids enjoy. But it's all heated by the geothermal energy from the volcano. We do a service project at a children's or family center where we go and purchase the stuff and the kids put together like sandwiches and cut up fruit and stuff, and then they serve it to the families and the kids and play some games with the children, or we painted one of the youth centers one time. So that's always really meaningful for the kids. That's something they always talk about being one of the most memorable parts. And then they will do a homestay, which is, a really cool experience for them, very outside of all their comfort zones. But they go in pairs or threes if it's an odd number. All the families are very well known to the local directors of the tour and trusted and visited and checked up on, all that good stuff. I listed some of the information over on the right. The costs have definitely gone up with inflation and everything else. Last time we went, I think our base cost was about $2,700, and this time it's $3,350. That's if we have 20 or more students. $34.95 if we have 10 to 19. As we know, lots of costs have been increasing, so I guess I shouldn't be so surprised. But it still includes
A lot.
all the travel while we're there. It includes their airfare, it includes their lodging, and it includes, once we're in Costa Rica, it includes every single meal. So breakfast, lunch, dinner. So that's a big, anyone who's traveled, how much that adds up. So it really is, and it's all the entrances and tips for the tour guide, and all that stuff is included. So it really is economical, even though it's not a small number. We will be working with the same travel company whom I love and trust implicitly. They're local to Wisconsin, out of Green Bay, Interact Travel. And like I said before, Lisa has chaperoned the trip in the past before I was here, and I know we've talked about, you've had nothing but good experience with them and their staff, so. There are a few things that are additional costs, of course. They have to get their own passport, the airport, or the airline luggage fees, snacks, and souvenirs, of course. You can't take kids anywhere without them. Buy candy and chips and sodas and Red Bull. I forgot to list on here, Emily reminded me when she was talking about her trip, the transfer to and from the airport. I always want to go together so that A, we can get goodbye to the parents done with. B, I know I have all the students with me. No one's going to arrive to the airport late. And C, we can poke around and check in their luggage before we pack it all up to go. Travel insurance is something optional. That's an individual family decision. Around $170-ish for the price trip that we're doing. We will go over spring break. It is an 8-day itinerary, as you can see. So usually we end up 1 or 2 days of school. The kids may miss, but not too bad. To be eligible, sophomore, junior, senior, they have to be next year in Spanish 2 or higher level. And they should be in Spanish the year of the trip, unless they can't because of scheduling. Especially for seniors, of course, there's a lot of times with, calculus class or pre-cal conflicts with Spanish 4, things like that, chemistry or whatever. With the higher level classes, of course, we can't avoid all of those conflicts. So, but they have to at least have tried to take Spanish, otherwise, stay. And of course, behavior and attendance need to be good. I don't want to take anybody to Costa Rica that I wouldn't trust in Porta. Chaperones, no parents, unless they're a parent of a student or district staff, of course, and depending how many students go. I'd like to have a male chaperone if I have male travelers, so I'd like to estimate we'll probably have 3. again, it depends on the number of students, because we can offset staff costs too.
And they have time to get the money
Right.
together to plan for that,
Right.
so that's
Emily
fine.
and I were already talking, sharing, chaperone, possible, and Gail over here. So, yeah, so that's what I have. I'm working on trying to get Shane to go, but he says it's too much time in the plane.
I don't like to leave Wood County.
Would
I
come-
have a need is here.
I'll keep working.
Yeah.
So, that's what I put together for, information. What other questions can I address for you?
Sounds good. I know from the last 2 times that you've taken a group that it was a wonderful experience for our students, and how wonderful that they can have 2 great experiences if they
know.
are in both
Right.
things, so.
And fundraising, I don't know if I said that, fundraising, will start this spring as soon as I'm approved with you guys.
Sure.
And we, for organizational and transactional purposes, we run it through Spanish Club. I tell the kids, if you're going to Costa Rica, you're in Spanish Club, even if you didn't come before. So that when we do fundraising, I keep a spreadsheet, how much they've individually earned.
Mhm.
A few things we do as a group, and we just divvy that up between however many kids actually showed up and participated.
Sure.
I'm not about putting more effort into their fundraising than they are.
Right. Absolutely. That's a learning experience also.
Yeah, my daughter went years ago.
And I went
with
with-
the same trip that you did.
Yeah.
Very good experience for her.
I move to approve the Spanish trip for
Second.
2026 to Costa Rica.
Motion by Kathy, seconded by Dana. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
I
Those opposed? It is approved.
And this is what I'm talking about. For a small district.
Thank you for taking the extra time and energy to give this opportunity to the kids.
because we know what work it is for you
Yes.
ahead of time, during and after.
True. It's a trip, but it's not necessarily a vacation.
No,
Yeah.
no, you know that,
But it's also not a hardship.
yeah.
I remember being at Mount Vernon once as a youngster is being extracted from one of the gardens.
Did you meet George
And-
Washington?
No, and the chaperone is yanking the kid from the flower bed, and I'm like, ma'am, whatever they're paying you, it isn't enough. It's just, yeah.
He just ignores me.
Yeah, I know.
Junior, George Washington Junior.
Okay.
I noticed
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
All right, next item.
Since you were Washington's fraternity brother, I can understand why you might think that, but I did that.
Next item is consider approval of co-curricular coaching position, Heather Landon, middle school girls basketball.
Move approval.
Second,
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Motion is approved. Next item, consider approval of 25-26 Port Edward School District calendar.
The draft which was sent to our board, as I mentioned in my memo, it was created by our calendar committee consisting of staff from the elementary and high school. It aligns with area school district calendars so that our spring break aligns. It exceeds the minimum number of DPI hours and is being brought forward for approval.
Move approval.
I got one question.
Yeah.
The color coding, there was green professional development days for 3 months. That might have been a mistake,
Yeah, the color code.
because it said green professional development days,
Oh,
and
no, that's an error.
January, December,
Oh,
December, January, and February
Yeah.
were like
all
locked
the
up
days, yeah.
John, they didn't know that yet.
Wait, what?
every day.
were there any,
There are the same
in the
number of people.
committee, I'm sorry, in the committee development process, were there any major bones of contention that couldn't be resolved, or was this, did this
Very-
come together?
Actually, we had,
No.
we had the calendar
Yeah,
put
no,
together
you're
in
right. I
one,
just
I would
lost
say
it.
40-minute meeting. They did a fantastic job. And then Wisconsin Rapids changed their spring break, so we had to reconvene. That's why we couldn't approve this in December at our
Right.
board meeting. That's why we're approving it
So
tonight.
they're aligned
Has
now.
has
They
there
are
been,
aligned.
has there
Spring
been
break.
any conversation between you and Rapids and the Cruce about high school graduation schedules?
We have not had any conversation. Ours is set in policy, our graduation date, but we haven't discussed alternating it or anything like that.
Okay,
No, it's certainly something we can do.
the only questions I've ever received from constituents about calendar have to do with that.
Yeah.
When they have a grandchild in two districts graduating on the same day.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I don't know what you tell them. I mean, grandma loves you best. I mean,
Grandma goes to one and grandpa goes to the other.
I
it's a
feel like
lose-lose.
we may have had that may have come up in a side conversation, and I know at least one of the districts were different. We're different than Nakusa. So, and I'm not sure if we're different from Lincoln.
I mean, it's an occasional
Are we the
issue.
same as
It
Lincoln?
isn't something that occurs every year,
Okay.
but
Something we can look at changing that. I think that'll be something we'll look at this summer.
just a thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, very good.
Move to approve.
Did we have yeah. I think Dana made the motion,
I'll second.
Leo second.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item, consider approval of senior high wrestling co-op with Nakusa School District for the 2025-26 and 2026-27 school years.
The WIA mandates that any co-op athletic program must be reviewed by the school board each 2 years and a new contract done for 2 years. This is a continuation of the current program. Mr. Ayers has recommended that we continue with Nakusa. We've had very positive relations, and some of the details are listed in my memo there. It's been very good over the last several years, and he has recommended that we continue for another 2 years.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second, discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item, opportunity for individual board member comment. Leo,
I don't have anything to do.
Dana,
Nada.
Kathy.
I always have something to say. Just ask my husband. But I just, again,
Semesters
want
of
to
college.
thank all the staff. And Jenny, it includes you, the teachers, the administration, Lisa, oh my gosh, Lisa. We are so fortunate as a board to have you under our umbrella because we have wonderful people in this district. And not every district can say that. So kudos to all of you.
Thank you.
And back at you.
Yeah.
Have we seen any post third Friday count,
Second Friday in January.
second Friday of January? I mean, have you seen any fluctuation in our population at all?
Second
Up,
Friday
down?
is.
So it's not official, but
Yeah.
informally we're seeing an increase, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be this Friday, yeah.
As long as it's this way and not
Yes.
this way, we're good.
I'd just like to echo what Kathy said. Who needs to go to a big school when we have so much here, so many opportunities? One-on-one instruction, small school, or small class sizes. So fortunate to be a part of this district.
This
Thank
morning,
you all.
this morning, just one more sidebar, I think there were 8 or 9 PEEF grants that were announced. All of them, 100% of which were submitted, were approved for approximately $32,000 to $33,000. So another great thing that we have going here in Port Edwards, all of these additional programs that are supported by the Education Foundation. So thank you to those teachers who wrote those grants and are going to do great things with those programs.
Next item, future board meeting, February 12th, and what do we got for March? Do we have to change March at all, or no?
I don't believe so.
No.
It would be March 12th.
March 12th, okay.
Paper calendar, nobody uses them, I use them.
All right, with
office.
that, call
Yes.
for adjournment.
So move.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you, people, for coming,
Thank you,
for
everyone.
all your reports.
Yeah. Great things happening. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Great things happening.
Fortunate. A lot of responsibility.
So, yeah.
But they want it. That's awesome.